ends in the death of a marriage. What happens along the way? In a world where divorce is becoming a commonplace fact of life, is it possible to have a long-lasting, happy marriage? That mystery is about to be solved. Join us next on The World Tomorrow as we go about unlocking the mystery of marriage.
This week on The World Tomorrow, Ronald Kelly.
Marriage has been around for a long time. Through the centuries, it's been given a lot of different identities. What do you see when you think of marriage through the ages? A caveman dragging his wife by her hair? A medieval Prince Charming defending his lady in distress? The pioneering American family in its covered wagon carving out a new life in the Wild West. The modern urban professional couple with dual careers and fast-paced lifestyles. Aren't those some of the ways we tend to picture marriage? Most societies since the dawn of time have made marriage the accepted way of expressing mature love. Marriage has traditionally been the source of family life. Many philosophers have sensed that marriage has a deeper meaning and a greater purpose than other social institutions. But few have understood what that purpose is. Marriage has been an unsolved mystery for a long time. On today's program, we're going to unlock the mystery of marriage. We'll answer questions like, where did marriage come from? What is the purpose for marriage? And how can you make your marriage more successful? We'll interview several experts who will give us further insight on how marriage can be successful. And we'll dig up some clues that have been buried and forgotten, valuable keys that will help us unlock the mystery of marriage. It seems more and more these days we hear of unhappy, failing marriages. In the United States, according to a study by the University of Wisconsin at Madison, the estimated chances that couples married this year will get divorced is 2 out of 3. Over 1 million American couples divorce each year. And in much of Western Europe, 30 to 50% of recent marriages will end in divorce. As you can see, for many, marriage doesn't look promising. But there are other ways to look at marriage. It doesn't have to be a miserable trap for people to get caught in. There are keys to marital success, and you must put them into practice. It's just that simple and just that challenging. In fact, I'll really go out on a limb here. I believe it's possible today to have the happiest marriages in all human history. Sound incredible? Maybe, but today we have more knowledge and a deeper understanding than ever before about what makes for successful marriages. We just have to take advantage of it. My colleague David Hume spoke with marriage and family counselor Tom Seitz.
I think we need a lot more education, information, helping people to be more realistic about what is involved in relationships. I think too that we have some misconceptions about marriage as like that when we're married, like that's it. We've reached the final frontier, so to speak.
The most common marriage problems I see are number one is lack of trust, lack of ability to build a trusting and respectful relationship.
Dr. Gene Grossman is president of the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, Northern California Division.
So there is a dishonesty that people enter into these relationships with, and it's never confronted. It's experienced as disappointment or abandonment or loss, but never dealt with, which is to say, we weren't completely honest with each other about who we were. We didn't say we were vulnerable. We didn't say we needed support. We didn't say we couldn't stand on our own.
Many people get married without really knowing their future mate. That, compounded by other problems, finances or unplanned pregnancy, can lead to a frustrating and unhappy marriage. But many of these marriages can be put back together. You just know what to do. Look at it this way. If you buy a major item requiring a lot of assembly, you always receive an instruction manual from the manufacturer. He designed the product. He knows how it should go together. If you ignore the manual and try to put it together based on your own ideas, the product won't work right, or maybe not at all, and you'll probably end up totally frustrated. But if you read and carefully follow the instruction book, you can expect years of reliable service. There is one special instruction manual for marriage. If you follow that instruction manual, your marriage will become more rewarding. It will give you a lifetime of happiness. If something goes wrong, you'll know how to fix it. Where can you get a copy of this instruction book? Well, it's probably sitting right there on your coffee table, or on your bookshelf, or by your bedside. It's this book, the Bible. That might surprise you, but consider this. The Bible is a set of instructions given to us by the one who designed and created marriage. The Bible also contains many keys to understanding marriage that have been lost to us. Let's see what this instruction manual reveals about the origin of marriage. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus made an interesting observation. It's in Matthew chapter 19, verses 4 and 5. Have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In marriage, it's possible for two separate individuals to become one, and that's one of the great mysteries and wonders of marriage. We asked Sherilyn Lehman for her comments concerning this. Dr. Lehman is a family and marriage therapist, as well as host of her own TV show and a published author.
I would say my key to a successful marriage is 1 + 1 = 3. You as one entity, me as another, and the we as the third. And in a marriage, to take time for the we or the us, I think is that bonding. But you can't forget that we're also separate. And each of us has differences, and hopefully they'll complement each other and not rub against each other.
We then asked Dr. Lehman, why do so many men and women seem surprised when they encounter these fundamental differences?
I think failed expectations is one of the major factors. I expected you, my mate, to be everything to me, to make me happy, to be the perfect wife or husband, to be understanding and loving all the time, and you didn't do it. Or to put it another way, I married one person and then you changed, heaven forbid. And I think a lot of marriages do not allow for change and do not allow for differences. And people get very angry when their mate turns out to be different.
When you think about it, the condition of many marriages today reflects the general state of mind in society.
Relationships are hard work. And if we live in a society where you just throw things away and replace it, what stops us from replacing spouses? Throwing away the family and finding a new one, starting over. So I think that's a subtle, but I think a real part of the problems in families today.
Yes, the marriage relationship is much too valuable to throw away. Marriages, according to the Bible, were never intended to be disposable. So let's go back to the very beginning and see what's recorded in Genesis. Perhaps in all the Bible, there's nothing more familiar than the account of creation. Now, some have dismissed it as mere allegory or myth, and in doing so, they've overlooked some vital information about the marriage relationship. Notice, first of all, Genesis chapter 1 and verses 26 and 27. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female he created them. Some have concluded that God formed the man in his image, then realized as an afterthought, oh, I guess I should also create a woman so they can reproduce. That kind of thinking brought us nearly 6,000 years of prejudice and miserable relationships. It's the big reason why there haven't been more happy marriages. No, woman was not an afterthought. There was a very important reason why God created man and woman in the time and manner he did. Look at Genesis chapter 2, verses 19 and 20. Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. But for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. God was showing Adam something very important. Adam alone was incomplete. Adam could ride the horse, plow with the ox, and train the dog, but he couldn't communicate with any of them on a human level. He had no one to share his life with. God made sure Adam realized that, then continued with creation. He took a rib from Adam's side and created Eve. Imagine how Adam felt when he looked up and saw her. She was like nothing he had ever seen before. She was his perfect counterpart. She was his companion. Adam and Eve were then presented to each other, and the first marriage was performed. Then God said in Genesis 2, verse 24, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." These are the same words Jesus quoted in Matthew chapter 19. Their deep meaning is a major key in unlocking the mystery of marriage. Adam and Eve became one flesh, as God explained. The Bible shows that God created both man and woman equal, but with differences. If we realize God made us male and female as perfect complements to each other, and if we know He did not make one better than the other, maybe we can end this battle of the sexes.
I think it is true there are differences between the sexes. Men, in general, seem to be more practically oriented and can tune out the emotional, have been trained to not show feelings, and can put aside what's happening in their marriage oftentimes and go play a game of basketball and not think about it, or go to the office and deal with their business and not worry that they left their wife crying at home saying, "You don't love me." Women, on the other hand, our emotional life takes over our whole life, and we are not as effective at tuning out. So we want you to talk to us and love us and think about us all the time, and you have not been trained to do so. I think it's a difference, and I think when men can understand that women need this to feel okay, and women can understand that men maybe don't operate the same way, it allows them to not take it as personally.
We need to realize that male and female are perfect complements to each other. And if we allow for that, we can have happy, fulfilling marriages. Now, before we continue with our subject, Unlocking the Mystery of Marriage, I'd like to pause and offer you this free, informative booklet, Love, Marriage, and Sex. Now, it isn't a graphic manual on sex, but it does show why these important aspects of life have to be in the right order if true love and the family are to survive. This colorful booklet will show you principles and strategies to help you make your marriage work. From an almost forgotten source, the Bible. The first chapter is entitled, Why the Family? It explains the purpose of marriage and why family is so important to God. The next chapter, Love, Marriage, and Sex, shows how to build a loving relationship and how to tell the difference between real love and infatuation. This chapter, Before You Say I Do, is a helpful guide for those of you who are planning to marry. There's also a chapter on 5 ways to love your mate, practical advice for couples who want to have a happy marriage. It seems so many today have unfulfilled or unhappy marriages. It doesn't have to be that way. This free booklet, Love, Marriage, and Sex, can help. Be sure to request your free copy today. And if you're not already a subscriber, we'll also be sending you a free subscription to the Plain Truth magazine. Nearly 13 million people read the Plain Truth each month. It contains frequent articles about marriage and family life, as well as world news. It explains not only what's happening in the world, but why it's happening, what it means to you and your family. Now, all of our literature is yours absolutely free for the asking, without any cost or obligation whatsoever. I'll be offering it again at the end of today's program. Now, let's look at another important key to further unlocking the mystery of marriage, a key to how you can have a happy marriage. It's again found in this instruction manual for marriage, the Bible. Let's turn to 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. Although it's here directed to the husband, it's important that both sexes understand its meaning and intent. Likewise, you husbands, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Did you catch the two important phrases? They are, dwell with them with understanding, and heirs together of the grace of life. One is a physical principle about how to live together in marriage. The other is a spiritual principle. It points to the greater purpose of man's ultimate destiny, and it helps us understand the real mystery of marriage. If men and women could just understand each other, imagine how different our marriages would be. But today it seems future husbands and wives don't have many positive role models to learn about successful marriages.
I think we have had a problem in that we've played up affairs and people getting divorced, and that has become something we're very used to on the soap operas, in the movies. And those have become almost people we admire, sad to say.
The TV or movie hero is typically carefree, jet-setting, roguishly handsome, and surrounded by beautiful women. Living high, living fast, and usually living outside of marriage. The TV and movie heroine is sexy, independent, and as successful as she is beautiful. She lives in a glamorous world, admired and courted by rich, handsome, eligible young men. Where are some realistic, practical role models for us today? Once again, to quote a popular saying, if all else fails, read the instruction book. That's right, the answer is found in the pages of the instruction manual we've already talked about, the Bible. It contains a wealth of advice from the creator of marriage. The New Testament writer, Paul, writes to wives and husbands regarding the basic structure of the marital relationship. He told wives in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23, Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. That scripture really bothers some people. They think Paul thought that women were inferior. No, he wasn't commanding women to be in some subservient position. Let's continue and get the whole picture. Paul had something to say for the husbands, too, in verses 25 and 28. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. God gave both partners instructions to follow. Both partners have equally challenging roles. Both are critical to the success of a happy marriage. Unfortunately, these roles have been misunderstood and misapplied. Some men, eager to assert their assumed superiority, think that the word submit gives husbands the authority to domineer and suppress their wives. That's not what the biblical word submit means. Submit comes from the Greek word huptasso. It means to yield, but it can also mean to complete voluntarily, to adapt, to blend, to make a whole, or to fill out a complete pattern. As you can see, the Greek word submit does not mean that a wife should cower in fear before her husband. She should not grovel at his feet or be a passive victim of verbal or physical abuse. For those men who've used the scriptures to exploit their so-called masculine authority, let's take a look at what Paul says in verse 21 of Ephesians 5. It says, submitting to one another in the fear of God. Submission isn't one-sided. It takes both marriage partners adapting and yielding to each other to make a complete and smoothly functioning unit. Each has a unique role to play. The woman's role as wife and mother is more important than many men have realized. But it's become even more challenging in this modern world.
I think being a full-time homemaker is the most difficult job in the world, and it's far from wasting one's time. However, we have to be realistic. Now we're in two-career families. We have to have the two incomes to survive, and men and women are going to have to learn to both share the load of being the nurturing parents at home, giving children the time and attention, giving each other that caring that we need to survive.
Marital success and happiness depend on each partner's commitment and support of each other's roles. What happened to the idea, till death do us part? What replaced it? Does society have an unrealistic concept of intimacy, of love, of relationship?
I think we do, in the sense that we're not taught to think of it as hard work. It takes time to build, that we are moved by our culture and by advertising towards instant gratification. We're not moved towards long-term, more subtle, less obvious gains or pleasures that are part of intimacy.
Sociologists have written in recent years about the character of modern relationships, self-centered relationships without commitment.
We have made it culturally easy to rationalize getting out of a relationship rather than hanging in and going through difficulty and trying to find out what comes out the other side.
Often people blame the marriage for their problems instead of blaming themselves. Marriage is hard work. It takes personal responsibility and commitment. Lots of commitment if you're going to make it through the tough times.
I look for mutual respect. I look for goodwill. I don't believe that love is something that you necessarily have to feel that much. I think love is a decision. There's a feeling aspect of it, but after being married 13 years, I certainly love my wife, but it's not in the same emotional, romantic sense as it was years ago, but I think it's a much deeper sense. It is a decision that I make every day to be committed, to be open, to be respectful. I think all of those aspects are very important.
It's a challenge, but there are ways to secure commitment.
Well, one of the key factors to building up commitment is open communication. And I know that communication can be verbal and nonverbal. They say that 97%, maybe 96%, is nonverbal. And we need to know that the way we express ourselves to our partners sexually, emotionally, is giving that other person a feeling of being safe. And by opening up, talking about it, realizing our own limitations, I think we can build that commitment.
Do you see now what the solution is to the real mystery of marriage? It's when a husband and wife are both giving love, not 50-50, but 100%. It's when they are applying this biblical principle that they're portraying something significant and profound. In the New Testament, Paul writes about this kind of marital relationship. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. The great mystery Paul referred to is how human marriage pictures the spiritual relationship of Jesus Christ and his church. Jesus showed his total love for his church, indeed for all mankind, by dying for us. That's the kind of love God gave us as our example. That's the deep mystery of marriage that's been lost to us. Marriage is not just physical. The most important ingredients in a happy marriage are ultimately spiritual in nature. When you know that, marriage has a much deeper significance, meaning, and purpose. That purpose should motivate every one of us to be a better husband or wife. I hope we've been able to unlock at least some of the mystery of marriage today, but there's so much more to the story. That's why I want to offer you today's free literature, Love, Marriage, and Sex, and the Plain Truth magazine. This informative booklet contains practical principles of marriage based on the Bible. There are a lot of books about marriage that you can buy at the store, but this 7-chapter booklet is yours free of charge. Love, Marriage, and Sex will help you understand the origin and purpose of marriage and the family, and why they're so important to God. The first chapter, Why the Family, explains God's ultimate purpose for the family as described in the Bible. The second chapter, Love, Marriage, and Sex, explains how a marriage relationship is built out of love and not infatuation. And this chapter, 5 Ways to Love Your Mate, gives vital keys that will help you have a happier marriage. Another chapter explains why the parent's example is so important to children. The concluding chapter, The Changing Years, Prepare Now, deals with difficulties that come later in life. This free booklet, Love, Marriage, and Sex, will help you make the most of your marriage. We have nothing to sell on the World Tomorrow program. All our literature is yours, free for the asking, no cost whatsoever. And if you're not already a subscriber to the Plain Truth magazine, we'll also be sending you a free subscription for as long as you want. The Plain Truth gives you insight and information you won't find anywhere else. The Plain Truth deals with life's important issues from a unique perspective, that of the Bible. It'll help you make sense of the complicated world in which we live. The Plain Truth addresses the problems we face in our everyday lives. For example, the Plain Truth has articles such as this one, 6 Steps to Financial Security. All of us would like to improve our financial situation. One of the essential keys is to budget money wisely, making the most of the wages you already earn. Then there's the wise and prudent use of credit, a particularly crucial factor in avoiding unexpected financial nightmares. The principle, Invest for the Future, shows how the habit of regular saving, however small the amount, will be very rewarding in the future. With articles like these, we know you'll find the Plain Truth helpful and informative. There's no magazine like it, and there's absolutely no subscription price. It's yours free for as long as you'd like. So once again, be sure to request today's free literature, Love, Marriage, and Sex, and the Plain Truth magazine. All you need to do is send a card or letter to The World Tomorrow, Pasadena, California, 91123. That's all the address you need to receive the free literature offered on today's program. Once again, the address is The World Tomorrow, Pasadena, California, 91123. In Canada, write The World Tomorrow, Box 44, Station A, Vancouver, BC, V6C 2M2. That's The World Tomorrow, Box 44, Station A, Vancouver, BC, V6C 2M2. Now here's a preview of what's coming up next week on The World Tomorrow. Mean streets, especially for a runaway.
If the child has had to live on the streets more than a month, it's very likely that they have had to engage in some sort of survival sex.
But many kids still run from abuse at home.
Like when he threw me in a basement for about 4 months. I was like 6 years old.
Join us next week on The World Tomorrow for Kids on the Run. We hope to see you again at this same time. Thanks for being with us. I'm Ronald Kelly for The World Tomorrow.
The preceding program and all literature were produced and sponsored by the Worldwide Church of God.